What's good, y'all? Welcome to another recording of DTYDT, Deeper Than You Don't Think, right? A show where me and my co-host we use our learning experience and our growth to show that no matter what we are going through, or no matter the circumstances, we can make something out of nothing. There's a lot more to it than that. And, every other show is might, sound a little different, but uh, togetherly it's all for the same purpose, and it's for the same thing. So, before I get into anything, first, I am a man of God. Second, my beliefs and ideas are like clothes. So, I'm not my beliefs and ideas. So, when they don't fit anymore, I replace them with new ones that fit, right? So, the last show, last recording, right? Uh, I remember talking about, the way how we see. And I broke down the definition of the word see, right? So, I think, well, not I think, this show, I'm going to start off with the definition of see before we get into everything else. So we could get a better aspect of like the way how we think, right? Just for the ones who actually know what I'm talking about, or actually ones who's going through it. You know what I mean? So yeah, so see, right? The first definition that I end up taking down for that word was to perceive with the eyes or to look at, right? Of course, that's the physical, the natural, right? And I know we heard that or have heard or hear it from certain places, or it sounds familiar, like, seeing with the eyes, right? Another definition we have for the word see is, right, is perceive things mentally, discern, or understand, right? That second definition sound like all different words that or meaning that comes from the mental state. Discern and understand. All that come from the mental, right? That don't come with the natural eyes. And I think we need to be very keen on stuff like that because we use a lot of words that is very misinterpreted in our conversations. And this is why a lot of our questions and whatnot go unanswered, right? But anyway, yo, these stuff is more than just thinking positive, right? So we really got to be more intentional about the words we're using, you know? Another definition I got here, to construct a mental image of visualize. To construct a mental image of visualize or visual, right? Construct a mental image of visual. And the last one I have here is to accept or imagine, right? The great thing I like about that last definition I took down for the word see, right? To accept or imagine. To accept the natural state of whatever it was or whatever it is. You can either pick that one or you can construct how you want that to turn out, no matter what you see. Because I know there's a lot of things and there's a lot of us out there that do remember things that we have seen, right? But we also forget that what we have seen means that what we are seeing can't even compare to what we have saw, right? Because I know a lot of us saw way more worse than where we at now. We got to stop using the building blocks of our situations as the foundation of who we are and who we transforming ourselves into, right? Stop old using building blocks of old situation to build a new you. Stop using that as a foundation because you're going to keep rebuilding. That's not a cycle you want to keep having. And I know a lot of you would notice that you're building some of these repetitive cycles, you're building your foundation off of things that already had happened to you. and you growing to be a better person or a better version of you off of that situation, right? We got to stop doing that, right? For some of us, there's points of our lives where we have like we hit a rough patch for like a certain period of time, right? Moments of crisis or long periods of like semi struggles, right? Or just plain out ready to throw in the towel, right? So we all have these moments where, you know, nothing seems like it's going our way. We can't figure out answers to anything. You know, 7 steps forward, 152 steps back, right? We all get in those moments, right? Some of us go through our lives not even understanding we can control our circumstances, right? In these periods of times, we are thinking and imagining based on what we've seen and what we have seen, right? So our thinking, right? Our thinking is based off what we see and what we have seen, right? That's why the building blocks of our newly formed character after some things or things happen, right? It's built off of whatever that situation was, right? So it's built off of a new imagination, and creativity is basically based on what we have experienced, right? This is what I've been talking about, experiences being our driving force in life. Feel me? So for a good amount of us, that's how we learn what and who we would and would not like to be in life, right? For most of us, that's how we learn what and who we would and wouldn't like to be in life, right? So example of that again is basically you had an experience that you really didn't like. You build based off not wanting to have that experience, or you seen somebody have an experience that you know that you wouldn't like, right? And you build, and your building block off of that situation is based off of what you have seen happen to that person, right? So for a good amount of us, that's how we learn what and who we would and wouldn't like to be in life, right? Even though like we look to build better version of ourselves or what we believe to be better version of ourselves, we still feel a void, right? Or some sort of like something isn't quite right, right? Or it's like you can't you can't find the right words to explain what you're even looking to understand for yourself, right? Sometimes these spaces is like very long. And sometimes being around people, it doesn't really help or not help, because it's just like you don't even know how to get the words out to even communicate what it is that's actually there, or the thing that's actually missing. You don't know, right? Around those times, in like moments like that, that's when we get complacent, right? That's not really a good place to stay into for a long time, right? Like when you get to that point, you are gonna find out of some things like, okay, I gotta get out of here. But you know, some people don't, or some of us, there are times when we won't realize that it's complacency that we're stuck in and not knowing how to get out, right? So believe it or not, spaces like that can cause our mindset to be ignorant, excuse me, ignorant of the authority we have over circumstances, right? Believe it or not, spaces like complacency, right, will cause our mindsets to be ignorant, right, of the authority we have over circumstances, right? Like I said, places like that can cause our mindsets to be ignorant. Or let me put it this way, places like that could cause our mindset to have no knowledge of the authority we have over circumstances, right? Believe it or not, right? This is where we lack in our own specific imagination, or creativity, right? This is where we lack in our own specific imagination or creativity, right? And unknown to us, we can think bigger and different from what we think should be normal, right? And unknown to us, we can think bigger and different from what we think should be normal, right? And I have the word normal here highlighted, and I think I'll need to read that definition just in case, because when y'all run that back and y'all hear or y'all look up the definition for yourself of normal, right? It says normal, right? Conforming to a standard, usual, typical, or expected. Conforming to a standard, usual, typical, or expected, right? Let me ask y'all this. So how have conforming been working out for us this far? Right? Up until now, how have been trying to live up to a standard of people and things that we grew up being taught to live by, right? How have that been working for us so far? Right? We have not been taught to exercise our minds for our own individual lives, but rather we have been taught to be programmed, disguised as free thinking or thinking for ourselves, right? We have not been taught to exercise our minds for our own individual lives, but rather we been taught to be programmed, disguised as free thinking or thinking for ourselves, right? We have to be mindful of that. If you really think about it, you go through like junior high school, certain things really didn't make sense, right? We should have been learning ethics and basic psychology like growing up, because that's the things we were around, especially around those times, right? So example of that, I know there's some of us that gave up on some dreams and goals and ideas that we never moved on and brought to reality, right? Due to what society thinks we should be doing with our own individual lives, right? Those are the empty voids that we take to the grave with us. Feel me? So that void you feeling, you're not the only one. We're not the only one. There's more of us around there feeling that void, and there's a lot of us that go to the grave with that, right? There's this thing I was listening to by Miles Monroe, right? God rest his soul. R.I.P., man. He says, the wealthiest place on earth is the cemetery, because there's so much dreams, goals, ideas. He said, give me 1 second. Look, the wealthiest place, bro. And this just had me like, it had me messed up a little bit because it's been a crazy year. And just even figuring these, like, these are the things resting in the graveyard, right? Poetry, books, art, paintings, right? Businesses that never came to life because people didn't believe, or people was too busy worried about what other people were saying, or people was too fixed on trying to please other people. Music, plans, visions that was never brought to life, potential that has never finished, right? And brought to life on this earth, right? If we were able to mind all those ideas and visions and dreams and stuff like that, the world will turn in one day, right? So this is something for us to think about. Like, what have you given up that you should have been mastering, that you should have been growing, that you should have been creating, building, right? That you gave up on due to conformity, right? What part of your destiny have you put away due to standardized, usual, typical, expected, or programmed thinking, right? What part of your destiny have you put away due to standardized, usual, typical, expected, or programmed thinking? That's something for y'all to think about. That void you feeling, that void a lot of us have been feeling, is the hidden potential or the hidden things and ideas that we never stepped into, or we haven't got started, or we didn't start building, or we haven't been growing, right? Because of what people think, what people say, what other people believe, right? What people think that should be normal, what did people think that should be standard, what people think that should be typical, when we all are so specific and unique in our own way. We got to stop letting these things stop us from even thinking bigger too for ourselves. All right? So that's something to think about for y'all out there. Feel me? Yo, if this helped you out, if there was something in here that is very beneficial to you, make sure you drop a like. Make sure you share, right? If somebody comes to your mind when you hear this, make sure you share this with them because they would like to hear this too. All right? I appreciate the love, y'all. One.